Hello and welcome to Odds on Serie A Match Day 24. We saw Coppa Italia this week with Atalanta smashing Juventus. On Thursday, we have seen Inter cruising in this Serie A. And remember, Leo, we have a postponed game this weekend. We are not going to see Milan and Como.
Exactly. No Milan Como. They were supposed to play in Australia. That got cancelled. And because in San Siro, this Sunday is the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics, it's been postponed for the 18th of February, Milan Como. A shame because it would have been a very good game.
Well, we are going to see it in a couple of weeks. Indeed, well, guys, as always, of course, ask any question to Leo Bachanian here. He knows everything about Italian football. And now let's go on with the show. And on Friday, Leo, we don't have a thriller, I have to say. We have Verona, Pisa, the worst two teams in this Serie A. 3 wins between them in all the season. Only 19 goals scored by Pisa, only 18 by Verona. It looks like both are going to Serie B, and they are both in really poor form. Pisa winless in the last 12, Verona 2 points in the last 8 games. So I wouldn't trust any of these teams. In a case they draw, but I guess draw or 0-0 or something like this, Leo. I couldn't trust none of these teams.
I think we are heading for in a scenario of a draw. That's we have a high possibility on that. I could trust a little bit more Pisa than Verona in this case. I see them doing better things than Verona and Pisa, especially away from home. This should be a 9-pointer, more than a 6-pointer because it's so vital for both. Horrible weekend. The match day 23 for both Verona and Pisa. I mentioned 7 goals conceded between them. At least Pisa had the chance of celebrating a goal. None of them, even if there is a win, none of them will overtake Fiorentina on Friday because the goal difference is too big. The defeat at home against Sassuolo meant that Pisa sacked Alberto Gilardino. He's been replaced by 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜𝐭𝐞𝐿, a very young Swedish coach, 33 years old. Gilardino left with 1 win, 11 defeats, and 11 draws. 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜, he knows Serie A, but as a player, yes, he played for Genoa and Palermo between 2015 2019. Not a player we all remember, but when he was in PSV, for example, he shared midfield with Jorginho Wijnaldum and with Memphis Depay. But the task in front of him, of course, he is a huge one, but there is nothing to lose for him because he does the miracle, which I cannot see, but if he does the miracle, then bigger teams will be looking at him. And he gets relegated, the most realistic outcome. No one will be surprised and it won't affect his next move. He's not the only new face in Pisa. They have added Samuel Ealing Jr., the winger who played for also no Serie A. He was bought years ago by Juventus. Then he was on loan in Genoa. He was on loan in West Bromwich Albion as well in England. So he's been here and there, and he's still very young. So we will see what happens with him. Since early November, we have seen the best performance for Pisa, as I said, away from home. 2-2 with Udinese, 2-2 with Cagliari. They also scored twice against Inter in that 6-2 defeat. And for Verona, well, the moment is, of course, as well horrendous. 6 defeats in the last 8 for them. The last win was in December. They got trashed against Cagliari on Matchday 23, which was definitely the worst defeat of the season. A game which should not be included by anyone in your ACAS, guys. Of course, might take here Pisa double chance. I trust them a little bit more. Pisa double chance 1.65.
Draw indeed. X2 and under 2.5 goals. David is telling us. Let's go with the next one, much more exciting. Genoa and Napoli, difficult game this one For Napoli, they were able to beat Fiorentina after the KO in the Champions League. Genoa, 6 points from the bottom three. Lost to Lazio, but they beat Bologna, for instance, in the last home game coming back. Tricky game, this one, for 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜.
Yes, Edwin, and it was a harsh weekend for Genoa because to take the defeat in the capital against Lazio, because the 3-2 came in the 100th minute of the game for Lazio. All 5 goals in the game coming in the second half, and Genoa made it 2-2 after being 2-0 down. But there is a trend there as well for Genoa. Of course, being Lazio the opposition, the one who was the most upset was Daniele De Rossi. But look, the games they lost points on added time. I said with Lazio, the 3-2 came in the 100th minute. With Atalanta, Genoa, they lost the game in the 95th minute of the game. And with Milan, they were so close to a huge win, and then they dropped 2 points in the 93rd minute of the game. But look, the last 3 matches in the head-to-head between Genoa and Napoli all have been goals over 2.5. Since Daniele De Rossi took over, Patrice Vieira, he managed already 15 matches, and 11 of them have been over 2.5 goals. Playing at home, 5 of the 7 games for Genoa under Daniele De Rossi over 2.5 goals, so something to take into account now that this Napoli is coming after the Fiorentina win. They did what they needed to do after the Champions League exit, which was to get the 3 points. Antonio Vergara again scoring. He scored his first goal for Napoli against Chelsea, and now he scored again against Fiorentina. He's not as young as as I first thought, but he's 23 years old. But I think he's been here and there. He's been on loan in Reggiana in Serie A, and he played his first minutes with Napoli in Serie A this season. But he's doing it in the right moment when they needed someone behind the 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽 because David Neres is out, as many other players, as we've been talking all season almost about injuries with Napoli, with Samuel Ghisa, Kevin De Bruyne, Billy Gilmour. Now they added as well Giovanni Di Lorenzo, who's going to be out for 2 months. So another headache for 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐽. Last time on the road for Napoli was the defeat in Turin. The odds on them are very good, around 1.95. 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽 De Rossi encounter may lead to believe people that we are hitting here for an under 2.5 or under 2 game. But as I explained before, I think the numbers show different with Genoa. So my take here, goals over 2.5, odds of 2.7.
Really good odds, indeed. If you go for the over, 𝐿𝐴𝐽 going for both teams to score 2-1, so it would be also an over, well. And 1-2 also sees Genoa scoring. If we check our smart bet tool, we see 1x double chance for Genoa. Surprise, I wouldn't discard it, that's for sure, is 1.9. Next game on Saturday, we have Fiorentina Torino. Fiorentina is still in the bottom 3, unable to leave the relegation spots. 3 consecutive defeats since the win in Bologna, and Toro were knocked out by Inter in Coppa Italia, but at least Leo, they won against Lecce after that shameful defeat 6-0 with Como. I think Leo froze. Leo?
I am there. I am here. I couldn't see you. There you go.
Go ahead with this Fiorentina Toro.
Yes, I think the Edu guys, Fiorentina is back to uncertainty and the doom period. The best time of the season for them was December until mid-January. 3 wins in 6 games for them. Now 3 consecutive defeats in all competition. The way I see it anyway, Edu guys, is that Fiorentina will stay in Serie A. Have they been poor? Absolutely. There are no excuses for the season they're having. But they have much better players than some of the teams around the bottom. They have added now Daniele Rugani from Juventus. You could like it or not, but he's a player Lecce, Parma, Cremonese, or even Torino will not be able to sign Daniele Rugani. Last weekend against Napoli, I think they didn't deserve a point, as Vanoli said. But it wasn't a very bad performance. Individual mistakes at the back are costing them. To start games without enough focus is also costing them. On Wednesday, Fabio Paratici, the new sporting director, was unveiled. He was all praised about 𝐿𝐵𝐼𝐻. Fair enough, they need him. He was in the bench with Napoli, 𝐿𝐵𝐻, and after being introduced, he played with Roberto Piccoli as a double nine. We did not see them often together this season, so we're going to see if Vanoli use them together against Torino, which should be a good chance because Torino defends with three at the back, guys. So why not you push them with two strikers? Because that would mean that either Coco or Marianucci will have to help Maripan, and that could open the door for 𝐵𝐾𝐚𝐲 or Manor Salomon, who scored his first goal for Fiorentina against Napoli. They could take the advantage on the win, either 𝐵𝐾𝐚𝐲 or Salomon. And Torino on Matchday 23 was doing Torino things, Edu, winning a game they needed against Lecce, knowing that at the end of the season no one will remember those 3 points. Che Adams is having now his good run, 4 goals this season for him. He's a player that he lights up for 5, 4 or 6 games and then he disappears for another 10 until he's back. Well, now he's back. It's 8 defeats and 4 wins in the last 12 for the Granata. On Wednesday, you mentioned they got out of the Coppa Italia in San Siro. Looking at the odds, the money is on Torino or in double chance, but I can't trust them at all. La Viola at home, listen guys, 9 of the 11 matches have been both teams to score yes, and that is my route. Both teams to score yes, 1.85.
All right, do not go for Fiorentina to win. The odds are very, very low, in my opinion. We have 𝐿𝐵𝐼𝐻 going for the draw. Very possible, indeed. 𝐿𝐵𝐻, both teams to score, no. And smart bet is double chance 𝐿𝐵𝐻. I wouldn't discard, indeed. The draw is very healthy, 3.7. For Sunday, we have a derby in Reggio Emilia, Bologna, Parma. It makes me hungry, this derby, Leo. Bologna, Parma, Bologna in the worst moment, I would say, in seasons. Falling and falling 3-0 against Milan, 3 consecutive defeats, 1 win in the last 11 in Serie A. And Parma not better, actually, winless in 4 and 6 points away from Fiorentina. Another odds that I don't like, actually, to back Bologna here with this 1.6.
Yeah, I won't back them, to be honest. And at some point, this awful run will end, of course. When is the $1 million question? Is the same that happened at the beginning of the season, for example, with Fiorentina and the relegation zone. And we all knew that someday that will stop the ugly run of defeats, but I was not going the one to put in the money on the day that Fiorentina was going to stop that run. The same with Bologna. I don't know if there is a psychological block at the moment or what, but it's a team that cannot put a good performance in 2 consecutive games, because before facing Milan, Bologna played away in the Europa League and they won 3-0 against Maccabi Tel Aviv. And we know this team is capable of great football. They've done it until November. So very, very strange to be honest what's going on for them. They're closer now to the relegation zone, to the bottom of the table, than to the Champions League spots, which by November, I remember Arrigo Sacchi was saying that this Bologna had enough material to fight for a top 4 finish. Well, none of that is now possible for them. So this is not a 6-pointer, but has the smell of it at least. Parma had little to do against Juventus at home. When Cambiaso scored the own goal and Parma was 1-2, I thought, okay, maybe here there could be a revival, as it happened with Milan when Parma drew 2-2 at the Ennio Tardini. But 3 minutes after that 1-2, Juve scored the third one and it was game over. They conceded 4 goals for a second consecutive match. Strange, because Parma was at the back of 2 consecutive 0-0, and one of them was away to Napoli. But away from the Ennio Tardini, we have seen some of the best from Parma this season: 3 wins and 4 draws in 11 games, which is not a bad record. And again, Bologna will wake up, but I don't know when that will happen. My take here, I think the good odds are on the double chance Parma, 2.3.
Indeed, the draw as well for 𝐿𝐭𝐴, 0-0, 1-1, disastrous defense from Italiano. David is telling us. Another drama in this case in Lecce Udinese, only 1 point away from Fiorentina, unable to win, unable to score. They haven't scored in the last 4 games. Lecce 2 points in the last 8, and it's incredible, but they are still away from the bottom 3, and Udinese, Leo, back-to-back wins, Roma and Verona.
Yes, Edu, and before I mentioned that Torino did Torino things in Matchday 23, and Udinese, and the same applies to them with the win against Roma for Udinese. I think Udinese is a bit of out of context team, no? They can win against Napoli at home, they can win against Atalanta at home, they can win against Roma at home, but then they can switch off completely as well for a couple of games. But 2 consecutive wins for the 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 team, and they're doing well in mid-table. But again, no, even 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 was saying that no, we don't look up for any European spot. So, I mean, I know he's not going to say it openly. Yes, we want to fight for Europe, because then if they don't make it, he's going to play against him. But at the same time, supporters need something. They need to know that the team is behind a goal. And at this time, and as always in the last few seasons with Udinese, with Torino, it seems like by December the season is over, and they can enjoy a win here, a win there, like with Napoli, now with Roma, but not much to take from them. But anyway, they should make it 3 consecutive wins now against Lecce on the weekend. An awful Lecce, a team that cannot score. 13 goals scored all season for Lecce. The book is pointing a little bit somehow to a draw here, 2.95 for that. I will look with interest to that, but I think probably we can see as well, or that's how I see it, an under goals market game here, but the goals under 2.5, very low, 1.44 the odds for that. But as I said, Lecce cannot score. My take, Udinese clean sheet in this game. Udinese clean sheet, 2.5.
No surprise that the last head-to-head at Lecce have been both teams to score. No, one joke is saying, so we don't expect a thriller, that's for sure, in this Lecce Udinese. Perhaps we see much more goals in Sassuolo Inter. Sassuolo got the salvation, brilliant season, coming back to Serie A after beating Pisa and Cremonese, the fellow teams that came up with them last summer to Serie A. And Inter, Leo, really strong domestically. It's 4 consecutive wins in Serie A. And the streak, look at this, 11 wins and only the draw against Napoli. That's why they are opening this big gap on top of the table.
Yes, Edu, and all that happened, this run of 10 wins and 1 draw, since that defeat in the Derby de la Madonnina. And they're doing so well, like that even after the 2-0 away against Cremonese, I mean, the talk was more about what happened with Auvero, the Cremonese goalkeeper, who was hit by a firework, than anything else. I mean, there was not much talk about what they done on the pitch for Inter, which was of course fine by the Serie A. Then a teenager was arrested, and now Inter supporters won't be able to attend the next 3 games away from home. That means Sassuolo, Lecce and Fiorentina, but important days for Inter, because after Sassuolo is Juventus next week in San Siro for them. Then is the playoff against Bodo Glimt in midweek. Talking about midweek, Inter secured the Coppa Italia semi-final with a win against Torino in a game in which they rotated heavily and they gave the chance to some academy players. The semi-final is going to be scheduled actually just before the Derby de la Madonnina. Boni again took his chance and he scored. Lautaro scored against Cremonese, 13 goals this season for him. Zelensky also enjoying his best time in 26 games. He scored 2 goals in 26 games. He has now 4 goals in Serie A, and he scored in the last 2 games in Serie A as well. With Barella and Çalhanoğlu injured, the midfield trio look strange with Zelensky, Susic and Fratesi, but worked very well against Cremonese. Di Marco, we talk about the last few shows. He was awarded Player of the Month in January for Inter. Luis Enrique also growing and starting every game lately on the right. I don't see Sassuolo upsetting Inter, but this should be an entertaining match to watch for the neutrals. Sassuolo had a massive win against Pisa, the type of games to win for them. 12 points above the red zone. With 3 more wins, Edu, or 2 more wins, they will be saved already, because the average points needed to survive in the last 5 seasons was around 36, 37 points in Serie A. Last game at home for the Nero-Verdi was, or the last home game against one of the giants of Serie A for the Nero-Verdi was the 3-0 defeat with Juventus. My take here, well, Inter to win is 1.48. Inter to win 2-0 is 2.4, but we always can trust Sassuolo to score. So my take here is Inter to win combined with goals over 1.5. These two together, odds of 1.85.
Okay, half-time, full-time. Inter, Juancho Quisterinas, Inter wins, and both teams to score. David, Inter's Black Cat will strike again, is telling us, actually we can check the head-to-head between these two teams. 5 wins for Sassuolo in 15 games in the last 9 years. So indeed, they are the Black Cats. Last game in Sassuolo in the Mapei Stadium was a win for Sassuolo, actually. 1-0. Someone is asking about the Premier League tips. Unfortunately, we have to cancel the video. Tom is feeling unwell, so we don't have this week Premier League, and we hope and wish Tom Rennie, of course, a speedy recovery. And our last game on Sunday, Leo, is Juventus Lazio, perhaps the best game we have in this match day, with Juventus getting smashed in Coppa Italia 3-0 against Atalanta. Although in the Serie A we are seeing a way better team. It's 7 wins in the last 9 games with Spalletti. Actually, the numbers are almost, for sure, title challengers. Not sure if Scudetto winner, but title challenger with Spalletti on the bench. And Lazio, Leo, finally got a win against Genoa.
Yes, Edwin. And you know, it was 3-0, of course, the defeat with Atalanta in Coppa Italia. But I don't know, to be honest, how much to read on that, because we cannot say that Spalletti rotated, because he played his best 11, apart from 𝐿𝐭𝐴, who did not play a single minute because he was not 100% fit after coming off with Parma in the second half. But at the same time, Juventus focuses in Serie A and also trying to make to the last 16 in the Champions League. Emil Holm and Jeremy Boga, new additions for in the winter market, were part of the squad against Atalanta. But at the end of Tardini in Serie A last weekend, they were close to their best this season. Juventus, Bremer scoring a brace, 3 goals in the last 4 matches for the Brazilian defender. Jonathan David scoring again. The week Juventus failed to land a striker. Weston McKennie scoring and showing another weekend. He is the best American player in the world right now. His versatility second to none this season, and it's quite interesting because that versatility probably was a kind of course before this season, a kind of player that plays everywhere and no one knows which is his best role. But for me, it's clear he's an attacking midfielder, as he's showing this season, or at least that position takes the best out of him, at least as well in this team in Juventus, because with the USA, Mauricio Pochettino, for example, prefers Max Tillman in the role behind the striker and not McKennie. But Juventus cannot allow themselves anything but a win here, considering that they're going to be visiting Inter next weekend. Del Piero was saying after Parma that this team needs to believe they can challenge for the Scudetto, but none of that will happen if Juventus arrive to matchday 25, 12 or 13 points behind the leaders. For Lazio, a very weird last weekend because it was a must-needed win against Genoa. It was in extremis in the last kick of the game, 100th minute of the match, but a win that nobody saw because their fans did not attend in protest with the ownership of the club. Sarri wants the season to finish soon. You can tell every time he faces the reporters. Lazio sold Mattias Vecino to Celta at the end of the transfer market. Alessio Romagnoli's agent was criticizing the president because he also wanted to leave, but the negotiations with Milan and with Al-Assad did not materialize. So basically, you had very important players leaving in January: Guendouzi, Castellanos, Mandas, the goalkeeper, Vecino, and very important players who stayed, like Romagnoli, who aren't happy because they could not leave. So that's the situation for Lazio. At least Pedrito is still here and he's still scoring like against Genoa. The odds on Juventus to win 1.48. My take here is goals market, goals over 2.5, odds of 2.1.
Juventus and under. David is telling us
I see goals here.
You don't see it.
I see goals. To be honest. I could trust, yes, Juventus, but I do see goals, yes.
Okay, Juventus -1 is 𝐿𝐴 telling us going for the Asian handicap. Juventus out of Coppa Italia because Atalanta smashed them. Atalanta Cremonese is our game on Monday. We are seeing Ademola Lookman already scoring, by the way, for Atletico de Madrid, now gone from Serie A. In Serie A, Atalanta 4 wins and 2 draws. In the last games, Cremonese is falling and falling. Leo is 6 defeats, 3 draws in the last games, and no goals scored in the last 4. So I can imagine why Atalanta to win 1.4 is almost like a safe bet.
Yes, absolutely, Edu. And if for Juventus the impression is that they are not crazy bothered to lose the quarterfinal. For Atalanta, it was a great night, to be honest. The best of the season, I would say. They took also revenge against Juventus, who is the one who won the final against Atalanta of the Coppa Italia in 2021 and 2024. The atmosphere in Bergamo was one of those great nights under Gasperini. They will play now either Bologna or Lazio. So the prospect for a final are very realistic for this team. Raffaele Palladino doing a very good job. And his team offers their best face when the opposition offers an open game. With Roma at home in the 2-0 win, we also saw a very good Atalanta. This is a team that if they can run, they could hurt anyone. They lost Lookman, as you mentioned, to Atletico, but Lookman left mentally anyway in the summer, never reaching his best again for Atalanta. In the end, I think it was a good outcome for everyone involved because Atalanta got a very good money, so that's good for them as well. Was not something new for Palladino to beat Juventus because he also did it with Monza when he first faced Juventus. He gave a very good insight as well. I like Palladino after the game on Thursday, because he said that at halftime against Juventus, he asked the players if he wanted to sit a little bit deeper for the second half. I think he wanted to have more space to hurt Juventus in transition, but the players told him not, that they wanted to push into Juventus half. Palladino is rediscovering the DNA of this team. He was also spot on, I think, looking forward to Cremonese, because he said that too often they raise their game against in a big night, but then they play below par against sides that might look inferior on paper, like this time with Cremonese. With Como, considering they played the game with 10 men for more than 80 minutes, I think it was a good result. Even more when we look at that Nico Paz could have won it in the 98th minute of the match with a penalty. 𝐿𝐴 against Juve scored his third goal in the last 5 matches in all competitions, and the partnerships with Raspadori could be something very beneficial for this Atalanta. And now Cremonese, you mentioned it well, is winless in the last 9, 6 defeats in the last 9 for them. They haven't scored in 8 of the last 9 matches. So my take here is clear. It's not just Atalanta to win, but Atalanta to win 2-0, 2.4.
Same 1-2 𝐶𝐞𝐿, Atalanta to win 2-0. Of course, Cremonese are unable to score. And on Monday also we have Roma Cagliari, awful game for Roma in Udine, already the 8th defeat this season and dropping from the top 4. Is only 27 goals scored this season. Leo, the tally is very low.
Yeah.
Same goals as Genoa, for instance. And Cagliari absolutely safe. 11 points away from the bottom 3, 3 consecutive wins. So this could be a tricky game for Roma.
Yeah, yes, I do. Because, to be honest, the challenge for Roma on Monday is bigger than we could have thought a month ago. Because this Cagliari now they put themselves in a mid-table position, just a couple of wins. I mean, for me, they're not going to be relegated at all, but mathematically, they are just a couple of wins away for complete salvation. To be 11 points above the red zone at this stage of the season is something that Cagliari has not been there before in the last seasons in Serie A. The 3 wins in a row is unprecedented for Cagliari in the last few years, because the last season they never won 2 in a row. In the 2023-2024, the more they won in a row was 2 matches. And the 4-0 against Verona also came with one of the goals of the season, with that volley from 𝐿𝐭𝐿. And Roma, yes, harsh defeat with Udinese away. And also the game with Cagliari is crucial for them, not only because of the defeat against Udinese, but next weekend they're going to be playing Napoli away. So the same weekend that Juventus is playing Inter away. So the mood is a bit tense now, as always, I would say, with Roma. There's never full tranquility in the capital with the giallorossi. Ranieri already said that Dybala and Pellegrini contracts won't be renewed at the end of the season, that Roma needs to reduce the wage bill for financial fair play reasons. The club brought Brian Zaragoza from Celta, but Gasperini continues to throw darts to directors and journalists. But it's part of Gasperini's package, He's not just attacking football. He likes public confrontation as a negotiation strategy. Same that Conte uses, Mourinho. Nothing new under the sun. I think that he likes to do that to fire up the environment. After the defeat with Udinese, he told reporters that if he does not qualify for the Champions League, Roma will change the manager. So that's Gasperini, and at the moment it's true that they were unlucky, to be honest, because the Udinese's goal came after a huge deflection on the free kick. They lacked precision, I think, in the fight, because they created good opportunities, but yes, they couldn't score an equalizer. I think it's an upgrade with Malen and Zaragoza of what they had with Dobbik and Ivan Ferguson. So we will see what happened on Monday night. But again, as I said, this Cagliari is a different Cagliari than a month ago, at the back of 3 consecutive wins. So I will be going the Asian Handicap Plus for Cagliari. Asian Handicap Plus 1.5, odds of 1.63. If Roma wins, I don't see a thrashing here. So that's my take.
Okay, one took similar one, actually. Cagliari plus 0.75, usually in the tight games. When we see Roma, let's see if they are able to qualify for the Champions League. Perhaps also Italy have 5 teams, although right now I think it's Germany, the league getting also 5 teams. Well, guys, remember, we don't have Milan Como because of the Winter Olympics in San Siro, so this game is going to be played on the 18th of February. We are not going to analyze it in this game. And of course, let me remind you that we have available our tipster competitions for you, where you can win some money. You can check now our February competitions. We published also in our social media the winners of the previous one on January. So of course we do give out all this money. So feel free to participate, and same, check Rivals, where you can create your own tipster competition. Leo, let's go with your safe bet.
Look at the safe bet I have prepared is Sassuolo Inter goals over 1.5, odds of 1.25. But the one we mentioned, or you mentioned a few minutes ago, Atalanta to win 1.4 against is Atalanta against Cremonese. is also a very good safe bet, 1.4. But otherwise, as I said, Sassuolo Inter goals over 1.5, odds of 1.25.
And your ACA?
Inter to win, Atalanta to win 2-0, Juventus Lazio goals over 2.5. It's interesting ACA, 7.45.
Okay, really, really high odds.
Yep.
Alain Balnegri caught an ACA last week, 11. I think is the highest.
Oh,
11.
Come on, Alain.
Well, good luck, guys. Thank you. Leo, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Yeah.